Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we have the latest from the live radar. From the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as to be honest, the first week or so of June is looking pretty poor indeed. Temperatures are going to be average to below average for the time of year, and we are going to see lots and lots of rain. We are going to see pretty flat westerly conditions, bringing in not only cool Atlantic air, but storm systems, low pressure systems in off the Atlantic. Nothing compared to what we could see in autumn, winter or spring months, but definitely for the time of year, as I said, it is pretty poor indeed. So I know we've had a lot of drought conditions, very dry conditions throughout spring so far, coming towards a record breaking end of spring, but to start June we could be reversing a lot of those drought conditions, as we are looking at some substantial rain throughout the coming days. As we progress into the longer range, we are still looking at this westerly regime, but as we have alluded to, especially earlier on this week, that there is the risk of a bit more of a southerly tilt to those winds, warmer, hotter air getting dragged in, both increasing the temperatures and increasing the probability of heavier showers and thunderstorms. Did back off from those sort of scenarios in the last day or two, but they're still there, and the GFS, for example, today still does show a similar pattern there, around the 12th of June or so. So do remember, if you enjoy videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see that the last day of meteorological spring and of May is actually a very warm summer-like day. For many across the south and the east, it's been pretty beautiful out there. Lots of blue skies, lots of strong sunshine, and a pretty humid feel as well, as the winds have been coming in from the southwest. Now, it's not a hot air mass, but it definitely is a warm air mass. You'll have noted that increased humidity and real warmth in the air, especially around the evenings. Definitely feels very, very warm. But it is all changing over the next 24 hours or so as colder air does sweep in. In the north and west, it's been a little bit more unfortunate. Bit closer to low pressure systems out in the Atlantic means, yes, it's been warm, but it's not been so dry, and you can see lots of showers and a few thunderstorms breaking out within those showers during this afternoon. You can see it's starting to fade away through the evening, calling this around 9 p.m, so we are expecting to see those storms sort of dissipating away, because a few are still going in around the central belt, but slowly fading away. And if we do put on the temperatures, as I said, around 9 p.m, you can see much of southern and eastern England is still very warm, still above 20 degrees, but it will dip away quite quickly tonight as the fresh air moves in. Now, do have a look at the latest UKV now. You can see those showers and storms earlier this afternoon clearing away out into the North Sea. And as we head into the summer, you can see it's still a pretty fine morning in the south and the east for Sunday, but still showers in the north. But eventually, increased cloud and shower amounts pushing in from the west as we do transition into a colder air mass. Now, it is a very slow transition, so the weather front we'll see is just a bit of thicker cloud, no real rain or widespread rain along it, just these showers that come through in the afternoon. So don't expect to see a rapid change, but it will be notably cooler through tomorrow evening. You can see eventually, as we head into Monday, with all this westerly flow, if you just see the movement of those clouds all coming in off the Atlantic, and you can see as we progress into Monday, we start to see the beginnings of very unsettled conditions. Not just showers, not just bits and bobs of cloud and cooler air, but proper significant rain and strong gusty winds. Now, for most through Monday afternoon, we're ahead of this weather front. It is pretty pleasant, dry, bit cooler, but nothing much going on. Cloud increases during the afternoon, and this big wall of rain arrives, and it really gets quite heavy there around the Irish Sea before it does dissipate as it clears southwards and eastwards during Tuesday morning. And then we see a whole array of heavy showers that clears, and then eventually Wednesday into Thursday we do start to see an increased bit of cloud again and another weather system moving in, this time focused further southward with some really heavy rain in there as we see a localized low pressure system develop. Now, these sort of systems, you can see it here, we're actually able to see it on the UK view, which does show you it is a very small scale system, which does increase its uncertainty. It could be slightly further northwards, eastwards, southwards, or even westwards, or it could not come to fruition at all. It might not occur at all. These are the sort of systems during the winter months we've got great intrigue, as they can be the biggest snowmakers as they do push into colder air. But this time of year, they actually could be really quite heavy and thundery, as they could drag up some warm air with that southerly flow ahead of it. So keep an eye on this. It could have some very gusty winds, as you just saw, some very heavy rain wrapped in within it, some reds and oranges there, indicating potentially some thunderstorms developing within its banding. But yeah, it could be a pretty wild Wednesday night and much of Thursday there as this system clears through. Could be pretty horrible there, and that just sets up the rest of next week as well. We're going to see more bands of rain later on. Now, do look at the max temperature, see mid-20s this afternoon, up towards the 25, 26, 27 degree range. Very warm and summer-like. However, into Sunday, still could just nudge at 22 in the east, but most now into the high teens. Much fresher, more in line with spring or late spring temperatures than early summer. As we progress into Monday, western areas are actually pretty cool, mid to low teens. Parts of England and Wales with a bit more sunshine still could just get to around the 20 degree mark. Into Tuesday, similar story, but again, really only a slither that get close to average around the 19 to 21 degree mark. That is across England there, where we've got a bit of sunshine, but most low teens, really cool for the time of year. And then you can see into Monday, there's the risk, into Wednesday morning, there's even a risk of a bit of frost across the Highlands of Scotland, as we do see some very cold air digging in on the northern edge of these low pressure systems, or it's very cold for the time of year. And then you can see through Wednesday afternoon, again, 21 could be seen in the Far East, but most mid to low teens. And then progressively into Thursday, we expect an abysmal day. Look at this, hardly getting above the low teens, even in those warmer spots further south and eastwards, where normally this time of year, we're averaging 20 degrees, 22 degrees. That's sort of the bog standard June day for in and around London is around 20, 21. And then when we get towards July, it's more around 23 or so. So yeah, really poor, almost 10 degrees below average there in a few spots. But yeah, you'll really feel it there with that cloud and rain, abysmal during Thursday. But as I said, that rain could move, that cloud could move. And if it does, these temperatures would respond accordingly. So we'll keep a close eye on that over the next day or so. Now, as we progress into the longer range, you can see the low pressure systems starting to arrive off the Atlantic, looking really quite horrific indeed. And you can see that low pressure system there, Tuesday into Wednesday, is horrific. Look at that, some actual darker blues indicating some really low heights within that system as it does slowly start to clear. That westerly flow continues all the way into the second full week of June, but look what happens, there's more of a southerly tilt to this as we start to see high pressure building in across Central Europe. Now, this is the pattern that we've seen a lot earlier this week, but it's continued to get pushed back and diminished a little bit in its model output. But it's here on the GFS today, and you can see it's accompanied by these southerly winds, where it'd be very unsettled, but it would be very warm. If we look at the precipitation, you can see showers and storms breaking out within that warm push, and that's because we've got instability out to our west, warm air digging in, and that combination produces heavy showers. Pretty typical pattern through summer, and you can see the temperatures would respond accordingly. If we saw dry conditions, you'd see high 20s, maybe even 30 degrees there across mainland Europe, but for us, probably much lower because of all the rain. If we remove the rain, we would be looking at mid-20s as well. So a much warmer pattern there from the GFS. But as I said, not all runs showing it there. As you can see, a bit clearer, southeasterly winds, instability just to our west. And that combination creates a bit of a perfect storm over the top of us with unsettled but warm conditions. Progressively, though, we do see high pressure nudging in for the end of this run. So although it's not ridiculously warm, it does turn much dry. See the wind directions more from the easterly, which isn't cold this time of year, like it would have been a month or two ago. But it's not massively warm either. If we do, again, zoom in to those temperatures, you'll be able to see still looking kind of at high teens, low 20s. So pretty average temperatures coming in from the east there, but it would get progressively warmer if mainland Europe heats up as well. Now, if we do look at our latest GM now, just to sort of follow on from the GFS, we see those westerly winds, that real lively low pressure system arriving there as we head through Tuesday and Wednesday. that eventually clears away and we stay within a westerly flow. And towards day 10, yes, signs of high pressure trying to build in from the south, but really nothing concrete, I've got to be honest there. It would turn a bit drier, but it would actually stay pretty fresh. You can see those upper air temperatures are actually pretty abysmal again at day 10. Look at this, 15, 16, 17 degrees, really not great at all. So again, we'll have to wait and see, but GM, very similar with that westerly flow over sort of the foreseeable future. But it's there out towards day 10 where the GFS starts to build those heights to our south. GM follows, but it builds it more in from the Azores and the mid-Atlantic than from Europe. It means it's more of a cooler high than a warmer, hotter, humid, potentially thundery high that builds in from the southeast. And finally, if we compare to the eastern diff that was very bullish earlier this week in that very warm and thundery pattern, it did back off it over the last day or so. Again, very unsettled this week. Those westerly winds continue all the way to next weekend. And then eventually at day 10, we do start to see something more reminiscent of that GFS run. Low pressure digging into the Atlantic, high pressure building up from the south, and we would hopefully expect to see a southerly flow develop in the day or two following this. But you can see here we're kind of in still pretty cool air, but we'd expect as this low moves into the Atlantic, southerly winds would increase in strength, and this very hot air would head our way. Would it push in by the time the low pressure arrives? Would it arrive at the same time, producing a very thundery breakdown? Or could it go very dry and high pressure probably builds in? We can't say for certain, but definitely more in line with that GFS run today. And if you do finish by having a look at the latest ensembles, you can see the next week or so, pretty abysmal. Below average, dry the next day or two for London, but precipitation picking up, and of course precipitation is going to be a lot worse further westward. So again, this doesn't always give the best snapshots, but cool, unsettled over the next week. Progressively though, from around the 10th of June onwards, perhaps staying unsettled, but a warming trend. You can see those spiking around the 50-degree isotherm. There are a lot more around the 10th of June getting to those warmer air masses. Not so many now. Said that idea's backed off a little bit, but still is there within the model output. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, unsettled and cool initially, perhaps warmer later on into the middle portion of June, but it could stay unsettled as well. So as I said, probably getting rid of those drought conditions in the next week or two, especially in the west. If you look at the latest ECMWF now, there's a midnight run, very, very similar, cool and unsettled over the next week or so. And then progressively longer range, turning warmer, maybe not as significant a spike around the 10th, maybe a bit later on. And precipitation does taper off a little bit as well, but again, nothing too huge. That sort of longer term time frame is still pretty uncertain. I hope to have a little bit more of a better view at it this weekend, but it's not really cleared up at all. It's stayed or pushed further into the longer term outlook, and it's stayed pretty uncertain. So we'll have to wait and see. The big thing though to take away the next week or so as we progress into the start of June is going to be pretty poor. There will be some brighter spells, there will be some drier, and there will be a bit of warmth. Of course, it's June, so the sun is very strong, so we will see warm conditions when the sun gets out. But there will be a lot of cloud. There will be a lot of rain, especially in the west. So do be warned. We'll have another update out, hopefully tomorrow, looking at that rain, especially Tuesday into Wednesday, where it could be very lively. We'll look at that in a little more detail then. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.